I'm already smiling, and I haven't even had a pour yet. I think we're in for a fun night tonight. Back again is your boy Brandon. Brandon, you doing good?
I'm doing great. How you guys?
Not too bad. Are you done traveling for the season, or do you still have more traveling to do?
Nah, I'm good. I think I'm good until next year.
Oh,
Hopefully,
there,
anyway. So I think I hit four different states and four different weekends, four straight weekends. So I'm good.
there you go. There you go. Well, we got something for you to relax tonight. We have a great guest with us. He's the founder distiller at MB Roland Distillery. Distillery, I got it right this time, in Christian County, Kentucky. Let's welcome in Paul Tomaszewski. Tomaszewski.
Tomaszewski, there you go. You got
Aha!
it.
I got it on the second try.
There you
Paul,
go.
welcome
Proud
in.
of you. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we're excited to give this a try, and like I said, you're from MB Roland Distillery out in Christian County, and we're just gonna hop right in on the first pour. It's the MB Roland Kentucky Straight Bourbon, still and barrel proof. If for those watching, you can see the lovely looking bottle here. So you tell us a little about this guy.
Yes, sir. This is our flagship bourbon. Everything we do is white corn, 78% white corn, 17% rye, 5% malt, and kind of gives you a little spice with that rye, but not over the top. Barrel proof and unfiltered as well, as most of our whiskeys. Well, all of our whiskeys are unfiltered.
Even before I get into the nose and all that, Brandon, I know you don't have the bottle with you. You guys sent home with a little sample guy, but
Mhm.
the amount of information that is on the label, we love the transparency. I mean, like you said, you've got
Love it.
mash bill, barrel, what batch, what bottle number. I mean, it is impressive the amount of transparency on that label.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it was. It's one of those things where you want to uh, kind of tell as much of the information because we've always made our own juice, so it want to point out the fact that we are very transparent, have nothing to hide as far as our product goes.
What is what's the proof, John?
105.6 on this one.
Yep.
Okay.
We go into the barrel pretty low, 102, 103 proof. We actually might have a few barrels that go a little bit higher, some that go a little bit lower. In this case, 105.6, went up just a few proof points.
And I was going to say, the Brandon, just for your knowledge tonight, and any of our listeners, viewers, the lowest we're going to hit is 100 proof, and that's because it's bottled in bond. So
Right.
we're staying kind of in our sweet spot tonight, I believe.
Yep. No, I agree. Thanks for it.
That was not the taste I was expecting off the nose.
To me, I get a lot of dark fruit flavors with our juice, prunes, dates, figs, and since we make a pre-prohibition style of whiskey, pot distilled, local grains, wood-fired barrels, we end up getting some different flavors that you don't get with more modern techniques. It's a lot of viscosity in the mouth, and then those darker fruit flavors that kind of it's unique. I tell people either you're gonna like it or you're gonna know it's our juice. Let's put it that way.
That's not a bad thing, not at all. And you're right. The mouth feel especially is there. Like the flavor is all around. It's not just a mild. You kind of get on your tongue, it goes down. Like it's the full shebang. You're awfully quiet there,
You
Brandon.
think? I'm thinking. Like I'm just trying to. Like you said, I got the nose didn't match the taste, and I'm just trying to figure out what flavors
No, like
that I'm picking up. And I do agree with him. Like I do get some of those darker fruit tastes, some smells, like you said, some dates, figs, maybe even some like some of those like dark cherry. But
Because on the nose it was one thing, then on the
mhm,
taste, I feel like a lot more of that rye. You almost kind of I think we said this on a couple other episodes recently. It's perfect for the season because you're
yeah,
you're in the kitchen, you're baking a lot of different
mhm,
things, using a lot of different flavors, and I feel like that is what I'm getting on this one. Something that
mhm,
takes me back to Christmas time, Thanksgiving with family because it's a lot of
yeah.
baking spices with fruit, which to me is a great combination.
Right, yeah, yeah, for sure. Like you could definitely drink this all. I mean, obviously, I could drink it all year round, but you're right. I think, especially around the holidays, this is one of those. I don't know what it is, but I'll figure it out in just a second.
Cinnamon.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'll figure it out. But uh, it's kind of like
You've
that
stumped Brandon, and that's unusual.
holiday baking bread, whatever that is. But it's like I don't know, man.
And
What do you think, John?
well, I'm really liking it because, like I said, it
Hmm.
gives I know it's not maybe what nowadays you'd consider a high rye. I know it's right on that borderline of high rye, like traditional high rye at that 17%. Which, like I said, this just on the bottle checks a ton for me, and I believe you too, Brandon. We love that 105 to 110, 100 to 110 proof. Typically, we love a high
Yep.
rye bourbon. We love a rye whiskey in general. Um, but like I said, it's different. I don't know if it's the white corn or what, but it's
Hmm.
kind of playing with my senses. But I love the mouthfeel. There's flavors there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of
Oh yeah.
flavors, and it's a really good pour. I know I'm kind of
Yeah.
dancing around like you are, but there's a lot of good pour, like a lot of good in
Correct.
there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, it's definitely one of those that's a really really good pour. Don't get me wrong, it is. But you hit it right on the head. There's a lot of flavors. And we've talked about this before. Some people they you just get the straight burn from the alcohol that just hits you deep down, worse than what the Kentucky Hug is. But you don't get no flavor from it. You just get the straight alcohol. And this is super smooth, super flavorful. I like it.
And
What is the
correct me
year
if I'm
on
wrong.
it? Like, what's the how long is it aged?
At this point, most of our juice is 4 years or older.
Okay.
I mean, the vast majority of it.
Yeah.
There's always a chance that there might be a younger barrel in there, but they're pretty thin at this point compared to. I mean, it's mostly 4 year old juice. But
Right.
our stuff ages. I mean, it gets aggressively dark pretty
Hmm.
pretty quick compared to other places. We only really have one warehouse. We don't have a row of them or anything like that. So it ends up, and with that lower
Yeah.
barrel entry proof too, I think that really helps out a lot. So 4 years for us is pretty dark.
Hmm.
Stuff that's 6 and 7 years old it's getting extra woody. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But all of our barrels kind of age uh, in a homogeneous kind of way. We've got good spacing, good airflow. We've got kind of like a wind tunnel in the middle of our warehouse, so we don't have a lot of variation like you have with
Hmm.
a traditional big boy, 20,000, 50,000 barrel warehouse. And so right at 4, 5, 6, 7 years in that neighborhood, the stuff ends up really hitting that nice peak and getting that good color and flavor.
Hmm. Nice.
I'm really enjoying this, and like I said, it's because
Yeah.
of where you guys put the mash bill on it.
I gotta try it
It's
again.
helpful for uh, it's helpful for us because you hear corn a lot, but you don't always know is it blue, white, red? What? There's so many different varieties of corn out there. To know that it's a white corn and that's kind of your true base for everything. I think that brings, like I said, some unique flavors into it. And
It
I
does.
know Brandon's getting another pour. I've got another one ready to go here on this one as well. We'll just go into one of our questions while we taste through this. Is what made y'all launch MB Roland? And I said your name. I did not hear Roland or M or B in there, to my knowledge. So where does the name come from, and what made y'all launch and get into this distilling and be a distillery?
Yeah, well, really, it was me. You can blame me.
You're the problem.
Yeah. It's, we joke, meaning my wife and I, well, that's where the name comes from. MB is Mary Beth, and her maiden name is Roland. And I joked with her and said,
That's awesome.
MB Roland, that sounds like a whiskey. That works. And
Yeah.
she said, yeah, that's right. And I said, yeah, no one can say Tomaszewski. So there you go. And we're not making
Also,
vodka.
Tomaszewski's really big on it. That's going to be small on a label.
Right.
Yeah.
But the motivation was, this was back in 2007 and 8 when we were getting everything kind of churned up and getting the whole concept together. There were not many distilleries, craft distilleries. It wasn't even really a term at that point. And it was quite a job to kind of put together the business plan and get all the equipment kind of pulled together. We're on an old Amish dairy farm. We're just very fortunate to find the property. It found us, however you want to say it. And it was very nearby and in a great location. We're in the middle of Christian County, of course, but particularly where we are, I mean, this is some of the most valuable farmland in Kentucky. I like to call Christian County the breadbasket of the Commonwealth because we typically are number 1 or 2 for crop production, row crops in the Commonwealth. And our side of the county is just nothing but fields, agriculture, corn, wheat, soybeans. And I didn't realize it at the time, but when we started the distillery or when we were kind of in the very beginnings part of it, I drove right down the road, 5 miles down the road to Pembroke, which is, of course, our namesake town, and started talking to different farmers. I mean, all of our neighbors are farmers, very heavy agricultural area, so always dealt directly with the farmers. And I'm from Louisiana originally, so I didn't know a whole lot about this type of farming or farming at all. And I just, talking to different people, talking to the granary, found out we had this food-grade white corn that had never really been in any type of industrial pipeline. And a lot of your corn, sad to say, that's produced for bulk for distilleries is industrial corn that's developed for starch content, for sugar production. It's not really developed for flavor and to consume. And the longer we did this, and once we got access to the white corn, realizing that it had always been used for grits production, for chips, for tortillas, it's a unique situation, very unique. And we embraced it, and it really makes a different flavor, starting all the way from the mash. Our mash cooking, to me, and of course I'm partial, but I mean, it's one of the most pleasant smelling mashes you'll ever smell as far as whiskey goes, because it's just pure grits. It's void of a lot of the extra corn aroma you get, the Purina dog food type of aroma that you might get in certain operations. But ours is very pleasing, very just sweet and floral aroma, and that carries over into the whiskey. But we started very, very, very small, 100-gallon still, running a few times a week and building up over time. I mean, very stair-stepped growth for the past 15 plus years to be able to say, okay, we make a little bit of whiskey, a very little bit if you're talking Kentucky.
Yeah.
But a few hundred barrels a year, and we started from filling a couple barrels a month, so it's been a fun progression to get to this point. But just always staying true to who we are, never sourced, pot distilled. A lot of my friends in the industry are going to column stills, and I'm not going to never say never, but we haven't, and I don't foresee us doing that because it really, on the stripping run of the pot distillation, that's really where I feel like you build a lot of the complexity of flavor you get. all these stacking of flavors that you're getting in this whiskey, and it's 4 years old ish. You know, it might some 5-year-old barrels in there too, but it's very complex because of that pot distillation that kind of, you know, slow cooks that stuff all in a batch as opposed to a column running through everything. Not that I'm trying to advertise for the brand, but the actual real juice that E.H. Taylor was making back when he was motivating the whole bottled and bond process and the laws that came from that. And he was making white corn pot distilled juice. So we lost that with Prohibition. We went from 2,000 plus distilleries to 6. And those 6 that remained were all very similar, all very large. And we kind of rode that with the industry for a long time until craft distilling. So my motivation was I wanted to drink that stuff before Prohibition that we haven't had access to for over 100 years, at least at that point.
You mentioned you're originally from Louisiana. Like, so what brought you, how'd you end up in Kentucky? And hey, how did you end up in the western part of the state over there in Christian County, especially wanting to, start a distillery?
Well, we are about 2 miles as the crow flies from Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Right.
And that's how I got here and met Mary Beth Roland. So there you go.
As I see the Army, is that have anything to do with it?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then that's why we're here in this part of the state as well. Christian County's been very supportive of us being here since day one, and that's just been really nice compared to some other places we were looking at the time, and they kind of said, I don't know if this is the right situation for you right now.
Right.
But Christian County's always been supportive of us, and it's with the agriculture that's here, we're really close now to where we get even our rye and our barley that's grown 2 counties over in Logan County. So we're close to all of that. The barrels that we get are Kelvin barrels, but most of the wood's coming from a stave mill 30 miles north of us. And so it's all of the ingredients really are coming within our immediate local region here.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
And I was
So
go
ahead, John. Sorry.
Go for it. No,
I was just going to say, like, did you, like, obviously you spent time in the military and the Army and stuff like that, but, did you have any background at all in distilling whiskey, or did you just say, hey, my wife has a really awesome sounding whiskey name, and you know what? We're just going to see what we come up with.
Yeah, that was it.
I mean, that's awesome.
I'm from the New Orleans area, and
nice.
I joke and say that with Mary Beth, I joke and talk about the interior South people, or the cornbread people as I refer to them. And I grew up on the Gulf Coast, more like an Italian family in a lot of ways. Alcohol was always sold on Sunday growing up, unlike places in Kentucky. But as far as the motivation goes, it was making the whiskey, and did a little bit of, call it, practical experiments, just trying to figure out if it was something that I could really do. And it kind of came naturally to me because I was always into baking, and it's really that same mindset. It's about temperatures, it's about pH, it's about sugar content. I mean, it is really baking. The closest thing that you really can draw a line with making whiskey, distilling it, is running a bakery, making bread, anything like that. And so it just really kind of felt natural to me, to be honest with you. And Mary Beth is a fantastic cook as well. So, I mean, we've found over the years a lot of the people that we've built our team with, it was just her and I starting day one, and we've slowly added people over the years. But the people that we bring on now, and the people that are integral as part of our team, they have a passion for food and beverage and cooking and things like that. So there's that real kind of motivation that all correlates, and skill sets that you really, really need, whether you're tasting or marketing or doing whatever with the product. But it's really where it all came from. But I can also brag and say, I joke and say my mom's half Cajun, half Scotch Irish. My dad's half German, half Polish. My dad's German side of the family has baking chops. So maybe it's in my blood too.
Dang, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's very interesting that you say that, because about how the correlation is between distilling whiskey, kind of really lines up with, baking. Kind of the same concepts, like you said, temperatures and pH or whatever. Because I never even, really even thought about that. To be honest with you, like especially somebody like myself who loves to cook and all that good stuff, but I just never really put that together. You're the first one that's actually put that correlation together, and that I've even heard any kind of distiller ever say that. So that's very interesting. I like it.
I make some mean
start making bread.
Yep.
I was gonna say Brandon's gonna work on his bread making ability now, because
yeah.
Well,
yep, exactly.
Well, and I was gonna say, and I love kind of the approach too with the pot still, because like you talked about how it does all the flavors. Which, if you're a cook, if you're a chef, if you're working on things, it's all about the flavors and how you work the ingredients. And I think that's what's thrown me off on the flagship bourbon, because there is so much going on, and it's really, in the whole big picture of bourbon, not that old. You know what I mean? Like a 4-year-old is not that old, but there is a lot more going on in this 4-year-old, bourbon than the average. And Brandon can attest to this. We've had well older that don't have that much flavor.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And honestly, the second pour of this, I got completely different, flavor notes. Like on the nose, I got straight up like maple, brown sugar, like walnut. I got all kinds of stuff.
If you, since our juice is pretty much all barrel proof, but it's all non-chill filtered too, you pour it in a glass, let it open up, it will change. You put some water in it, it's never touched water. So it's going to go through a few chemical reactions, and it really will change a bit in flavor.
Right. I poured that second pour, and it was just like mind-blowing different ball game when it comes to all the flavors that I was getting.
And then I find
if
I drink stuff cold versus room temperature, that makes a huge difference for me.
Yep. No, I agree.
Well, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen on this next one, because it's a whole different thing, because it's bottled in bond, so you got to do a little bit extra to it. It's the Barker's Mill, bottled in bond, and I believe y'all tied some Christian County history into this bottle's name.
Correct. Yeah, this is, of course, a wheated bourbon. One difference with this one is it doesn't have all of that information you see on our MB Roland or flagship stuff. This particular label was done as a homage to Barker's Mill, which we're on Barker's Mill Road, or one of our addresses, because we're kind of on a corner. And Barker's Mill is the site is 3 miles right down Barker's Mill Road. And it was an old distilling site way back in the day. It was a mill site first. And if you're familiar with the George Washington grist mill and distillery, kind of like that kind of model. But it was kind of fell out of disrepair. It was here in the super early settlement days, late 1700s, early 1800s, and took the picture that there's an old picture. If you look up Barker's Mill, Western Kentucky, you can find that picture. And my brother did the artwork to base this off of that. He's a pretty serious artist. It skipped me. I can make whiskey. And so my older brother and younger sister, they're both master artists, and I'm in the middle, and I can make whiskey.
Hey, you're a different artist.
You're a different artist in your own right.
But it's a family operation to get this product together. The juice is 5 years old. Again, it's very dark, very flavorful for 5-year-old juice. Bottled and bond, it's going to be not necessarily the same mash bill, but all of the whiskey or all the bourbon will be wheated bourbon. Generally, most of the juice in here is 25% wheat, but it might have a barrel that's got a 40% or a 20% because we've got those 3 different mash bills that we play with. But this one is just really good and solid at 100 proof. You get a lot of that same complexity you got with the flagship, minus the spice. To me, I don't really get the spice on the side of the tongue. So you still get a lot of that dark fruit flavor, but without more of that kind of cinnamon allspice jumping out at you. And 100 proof, very... if you don't like this, I don't know what to tell you, is what I tell people. There's no hope for you drinking bourbon if you don't like Barker's Mill.
I totally agree. First drink, just straight shooter. Like, it's super smooth. You don't get, like you said, don't get none of the spice, the burn. I mean, you don't even get, the straight Kentucky hug or anything like that. You don't get none of that. Like, it's just, I mean, it is very smooth, very flavorful. I'll give you that. And yeah, I'm still trying to go through my playbook of flavors of what I'm picking up, but
I get a little nutmeg in this one. That's the real spice I get in this, but it's not like sharp like cinnamon.
Yeah.
I just going back.
And I was even going to say, like, but hell, it doesn't matter what kind of flavors I pick up. I mean, it's just good. It's just smooth, good.
It's just yum, just a yum.
Yeah, it's just yum. Also, John, this is a strong candidate for our new flavor profile. Juicy.
That is.
It is juicy. Like in the mouthfeel, it's just that juicy. Like, you don't leave you with that dry cotton mouth. It doesn't leave you, And you mentioned the viscosity of the previous 4. I don't get that as much in this one, but I get that just the juicy flavor. Like, I don't know what it is, but it just makes me want more.
It's sitting there, and it's letting you know, hey, I'm here. And like I said, it's not in that overpowering burn way, but more, like I said, there's a ton of flavor in this one, just like that first one. And it's, that pot distilled, how that approach that y'all are doing is clearly coming through in the products.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we're not trying to make something that tastes like your run-of-the-mill 90 proof, 4 years in a day juice. It really is about flavor. And once we get barrels that we zone in on that we're going to use for a blend, we're not really concerned about the age of them. It's just about flavor, and so we stack them up according. I tell people, single barrels are fantastic, but after being in this business as long as I have, I actually have a lot more love and respect for blends, because providing that consistency and creating those batches, it really does take a certain level of expertise and skill. Whereas single barrels, that's it. That's what you got. And it's almost like a tragedy to me, because once it's over, it's done. That's it. It doesn't matter. It can be the greatest whiskey in the world. You only got, a couple hundred bottles or something. So,
you're exactly right, because each barrel is, it's got its own distinct flavor. And if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. So.
Well, and I feel like, too, one of the hardest things for, like, say, a craft brand, because we're all trained on the big boys, let's be honest. That's probably how we all broke into it. And what you talk about there is that consistency. If you're going to go get a Buffalo Trace, a Maker's Mark, in theory, 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's going to be the same every single time. You're going to get the same, what you're expecting. And for a craft guy, that is when you're able to reproduce the same thing over and over, because sometimes you might get one bottle from a place that you're like, oh, I love it, but the next you don't, and you're like, but wait, it's the same label or it's the same company. Why are they so different? But with y'all, like you said, being able to kind of reproduce those over and over, you don't have a whole lot of wiggle room. You guys don't have a ton of barrels to hide anything on.
Yeah, our batches are usually, I mean, we've got super small micro batches that are just a few barrels, but generally our batches are going to be about 10 to 20 barrels in that neighborhood. And it seems to work really, really well. It's a reasonable way when you're hand picking barrels kind of with a single barrel mindset versus blindly putting a batch together just based on color or based on age, which does happen for a lot of bulk brands. But of course we're much smaller, so a little bit easier to manage it that way.
Yeah. Well, you told us about how like you guys, why you guys use the white corn. That I love that because it's what your area is known for there in Christian County. It's known for that white corn production. Kind of famous for it, honestly. Now, word on the street is that you guys were the first craft distillery to do the grain to glass.
I don't know the exact distillery that can claim that. We were definitely one of the first.
Well, we can give it to you if you would like. We can just put our stamp on it. Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to argue with us. So.
Well, I will say this: we're one of the very few that can say we've never sourced juice, and
Yeah.
we've
That's awesome.
developed our own flavor and built up our product that way.
Yeah.
There was when we were licensed, there was a handful of other distillers here in Kentucky. Most of them were not making whiskey; they were making other products. And I don't know who was first or who was second, but within just a few months, we were all kind of at the same time. But it's our model has always been just slow growth. Start making a certain amount of whiskey, increase that next year, and so on. And we've developed it to where we've got a nice little amount to work with. Not thousands of barrels, if y'all alluded to, but as far as for batching or anything like that, but enough to where it's fun to go out and make a batch now.
Right.
But they're good barrels.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now just for just for an example, how much will right now currently, well, maybe this year, how much would you guys produce on an annual basis? How many barrels?
We make about 300 barrels a year.
Okay. Nice.
And we've, like I said, slowly grown that each year.
Right.
I can't tell you exactly how much we're going to grow from year to year, but what I can say is we have a capacity for about 1,000 or so barrels a year. So we're still growing into that capacity, and we've still got plenty of room to work with.
Right. Yeah. That's
But I
what
like
it's all
that.
about.
I was gonna say I like the slow and steady because some people can ramp up real quick, and then you wonder, like, is it the same as it was before? And clearly with y'all, you're taking that kind of tried and true approach, and I love that because you source everything from nearby. I mean, it's you use real local ingredients. You've always made your stuff, which I'm guessing too on that end. Like, how hard is it sometimes to be patient? We talk. The hardest thing about this industry is time. Like you can't speed it up. I mean, like I say, but you can try, but it's never a good idea to do that. So I mean, being patient and letting those things get up where you have I know you guys have been around since 2009, but like to have a stock where you can say there's 6, 7, 8, 9 older barrels there that we let go and we kept, we're in now almost everything's 3 to 4 years or more that we're putting into stuff. I mean, how hard was it to be patient and let that growth just kind of go naturally?
Not easy earlier on. And I think part of that was being younger and being less patient. That if you have any impatience, this industry will cure you of that. If anything, when you make a product that kind of your minimum focus or desire is to hit a 4-year-old product. It's the hardest part, to be honest with you, is that it's letting that inventory build up and turning it into something where you can actually develop products, you can replicate products. The sourced whiskey market is there, and in our case, even if we wanted to source whiskey, well, as far as I know, we're the only place you can buy white corn pot distilled bourbon. So at least in Kentucky.
Only place I know of.
We can't source any of our juice to grow it. We have to make it.
Maybe that was a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, that has kept you all doing some interesting things. And you know, we had the flagship first, the bottled and bond. Brandon, you ready to go to number 3?
Yep.
So let's go
Time
to
of
the
year for it.
Kentucky Straight Rye.
Of course, we have to have a green label, but we still have all the information on there. This one I'm drinking from is 106.9 proof, but the mash
Brandon,
bill on
ours
this
is
108.
I was gonna say ours is 108.
Okay.
It's a 3-year.
You got
Yeah.
the pass batch.
Yeah.
This is going to end up being 68% white corn, 27% rye. 68% rye, 27% white corn, 5% malt. And the white corn, I feel, is really important in this one to kind of like settle down some of that rye. But then the pot distillation on this one, I won't stick any ideas in your head till you taste it first. But it's just something I don't like saying. But this is a unique rye, very unique. And again, it's pre-prohibition style, and some of the flavor notes you get with this are very representative of that compared to modern day ryes, particularly column distilled juice. That's typically a lot more pepperier than ours. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes sense.
I'll accept it. I'll accept that.
You could put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, peppery.
Peppery. But that's a unique mash bill for a rye. You know, everyone hears the 95.5s and some other variations, but that's what'd you say, 68?
68 rye and 27 corn. It's kind of almost a flip-flop of our regular bourbon flagship mash bill. Not exactly, but close.
Yep.
But
Yeah, it's close.
And the Kentucky rye's kind of evolved over time to be 51% rye and the rest corn and malt, because it's cheapest to make rye that way, because rye whiskey, you kind of get smacked twice. You get lower yields on the grain, and you can't put as much in the actual mash. And my way of telling people how bourbon came to be, it's pretty simple. From my standpoint as a distiller, having made bourbon, having made rye whiskey, if you make rye whiskey and then you make bourbon, you will not want to make rye whiskey anymore if you don't have to. So there's your story of how bourbon came to be. Rye whiskey turns into wallpaper paste, and again, you get less yield on the grain. So it's just economics, really. Corn it wants to become whiskey, and the way that grain acts when you mash it is it's you could almost screw up and do it right. But rye, you kind of got a baby. You got to keep an eye on it. You got to really make sure that it doesn't get overly thick. And every distiller, whether they mention it or not, they're going to want to try to maximize the grain that they put into their mash for yield purposes. And you push that envelope too much with rye, and you have problems because it really gets thick. But it is a wonderful whiskey as far as the way it drinks. I feel like on this one I get a lot of herbal notes, maybe some mint in the finish. That again, it's just a different animal, This one really stands out quite a bit. You still get the dark fruit flavors, of course, but it's just really good for this time of year. I drink probably 90% of my rye consumption, I don't know, October through January or something like that. I drink very little rye outside in the warmer months.
Yeah. See, I'm quite a bit the opposite. I consume a lot of rye all throughout the year because rye's my favorite. A lot of people, I don't know what it is with my taste buds, but typically rye gives you that spice, that spiciness. I don't get that with typical ryes. I get sweetness. I don't know why. Like I get the burn and all that stuff, get a little bit of the spice, but for whatever reason, every time I drink a rye, on the back end, I get that just sweetness that just mellows everything out, and I just love it. This one, I get a lot of the spice. I get more spice than what I do on, just even a traditional rye that not done with rye with white corn, but it's a good spice for me. I don't really know how to describe it. Like you said, it's completely different. It's completely different rye than what I've ever had, obviously, but it's very smooth. And if anybody likes rye whiskey out there, you have to try this because it's really good. And it's unique,
it's
and it's in
totally
that perfect, really good proof, range. Like we're drinking the 108, you got the 106. That is a really, really good sweet spot for a good rye whiskey, good bourbon. So,
what made you go with the unique mash bill on this one? Because I feel like that white corn has thrown me off on this rye because it is unlike anything I've had. Like I said, there are good ryes and there are bad rye whiskeys because, like you said, people can try to cut corners with it and kind of do too much with it. But this is like I said, I don't think I've had anything that has hit my taste buds like this on this. So what made you kind of flip flop the bourbon mash bill on this one and go 68, 27, 5?
Well, kind of thinking about it from a sensibility standpoint, Kentucky ryes have always had more corn, and then they walked up to that high amount just using 51% rye. But there was always a healthy amount of corn because of the prevalence of corn. Wanted to include some, but not too much, so that seemed like a real good balance. Wanted to have a good backbone of that white corn because that really is what we have been about since we started distilling, and really let that be a heavy part of the effects of what you're getting. I feel like it makes it sweeter a little bit. I think it even softens it up somewhat because no matter what, when you're doing stuff with rye, I mean, it's going to have a certain amount of spice to it or a little bit of a tingle, with however that comes across depending on the person.
Which is interesting because, like, I know Brandon was talking about how he kind of got the traditional notes. I'm more with you, Paul, on the and I don't want to use this in a bad way. Like, it mutes that corn, kind of curtails that spice, and I get more of a muted, spice than anything. I get almost a whole different flavor profile than I've ever gotten. Like, my mind's kind of blown on this one. Like I said, it truly is something different on a rye whiskey. Because Brandon and I love trying different ryes, so we've if it's out there, we've tried it, or at least tried to find it to try it, just because of what we enjoy.
Yep. Yeah, this is. It's like you said, it's very unique and it's delicious. Like if you like ryes, but I will say if you're not a rye whiskey person, this probably ain't your jam. But like a lot of people don't like it because it's they typically people get that spice, that strong spiciness, and followed by the burn of the juice. But if you like ryes, this is one you have to try, and it should be on your shelf. Gonna be on mine soon.
Well, and you know, we talk about kind of your approach to making whiskey. You know, you go from the still to the barrel. There's no water added. You know, but you very traditional style or old school style. Why did you go with that approach? I mean, what made you think, hey, let's do something kind of, you know, everyone's going right, let me go left, so to speak.
Well, I mean, this was 2007 and 8 when we were really figuring things out, putting the business together, and it was about trying to make a unique style, to be honest with you, and trying to fit it as much to the way it was done before Prohibition. Barrel entry proof was 110 max before, I believe, the 60s, and you ended up having different aging that happened in those lower barrel entry proof numbers. A little bit of the more water actually helps the wood sugars dissolve more effectively, and so it builds that color and flavor a little more aggressively. In our case, we started off doing still and barrel proof, distilling it off the still at around 110. It wasn't exactly 110; it might have been below. And so some barrels were going in at 105, some at 110, some at 108, you know, in that zone, usually leaning towards 110. And as we evolved and we started tasting barrels, we realized these barrels that we filled lower, even if it was just a few points lower, were always a little sweeter and a little quicker to get that flavor. And of course, you know, that's science working for us. And considering that we can cut the barrel or the white dog essentially down with completely neutral water, that really doesn't make a difference. So now we actually go into the barrel at 102 to 103 in that range, trying to maximize the amount of that flavor build, and especially because most of our juice is barrel proof. We're not concerned about the proof it goes in and the math associated with bottling. What we put in is what we're going to get out, because we don't add any water anyway for most of our juice.
Yeah.
Barker's Mill obviously is cut to 100 proof, but even that's cut down just a few points out of the barrel, very minimal amount.
No, I love it because, one, you keep things very consistent with, you know, the white corn being used throughout. You know, it just, I don't know, it's a whole different, you know, flavor. You know, Brandon and I have done a couple of these here recently, and y'all's are something totally different than we've had. You know, a lot of times you'll pick up things that are very similar, or maybe they're close to other things, which isn't a bad thing, but y'all's are, like I said, that rye was totally different, and then just what you're able to get out of the ages on the others because of the approach is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you much. Appreciate that.
And I say this all the time with other ryes, just because I love rye. But if there ever was a rye that's really good, that would be really good in an old fashioned, that would be a rye that I would like in an old fashioned, just because of the the complexity of it and that little bit of extra spice you're going to get, just because of it's so unique, that can mellow out with, you know, all the other flavors that goes into old fashioned. So I'm excited to get a bottle on the shelf and try that, especially over Christmas. So
I like our rye in a Manhattan.
Yeah.
And then I also like a old fashioned too, but most of the time I'm doing bourbon for an old fashioned. But both of those, the bourbon and the rye, or most of those barrel proof products that we have, they really holds up really well in a cocktail.
Yeah.
You will know that the whiskey's in there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we like.
Yeah, that's what you want. That's what you want in a good cocktail. You want to taste that good whiskey, that good bourbon, or whatever it is. So,
well, Brandon, let's knock out this
ready.
fourth pour if you're ready.
I'm
You
ready. I've already opened it.
So we got
I'm ready.
something that I think we don't get to try a whole lot of, is a Kentucky straight corn whiskey.
That's right.
Yep. Now I'm going to go ahead and preface this, so don't get mad. But all the straight corn whiskeys that I've had, I'm not a fan. So I'm hoping that you win me over with this. And if it doesn't, it's definitely don't hold it against me. It's just, I don't know what it is. This has never been my jam, but
You'll never be allowed in Christian County.
Well, this one,
never make it out alive.
This one won best in category last year for the Ascot Awards.
I got you.
And
keep them coming. Keep playing. Keep flipping my mind. Like trying to psych me out. I get it. Keep it coming.
well, it's white corn. It's not yellow, so a little bit of a different flavor profile you're going to get.
That's true.
This is the best representation of our distillate, and I say that because it's going into a used barrel instead of a new barrel. And when you put it in a new charred oak barrel for bourbon or rye, you're working with 75% of that flavor coming from the wood. Not as much, and a little bit of a different mindset when you have a used barrel. It's more of a Scotch mindset when they age those in used barrels. But these are very freshly dumped bourbon barrels whenever we fill them. 95% white corn, 5% malt. There's nothing else there on the flavor to get in the way. It just really, I'll put it to you this way. When we started making this, wanted to do something with a used barrel, wanted to do a corn whiskey because of the white corn, but also historically before Prohibition you had a lot more corn whiskeys. Mm-hmm. And this one in particular I could drink pretty easily, and the second drink went down easier, and it keeps going easier after that. So this is what I call my last pour, so that I don't get myself in any trouble, because it really is an easygoing whiskey for 107.7 proof, which this one is.
Yep.
And
that's what we got.
And that's what we've got, the 3 to 6 year batch 19. So, all right. I think if nothing else, you've excited Brandon.
Yep. Smells like a bowl of grits. That's a t-shirt.
Yep.
I was gonna say, one of my favorites is when we've had a lot of heavy corn whiskeys. Brandon's like, it's on the taste or whatever. He's like, it's chocolate covered corn. That's all. that's like his. He's like, that's all I got. And I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is for me, I get a lot of honey notes in this, and the more you drink, the sweeter it gets. At least for me.
Yep. I can see that, especially on the nose. You get that, but man.
Have you tried it yet, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of shocked by it. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's definitely not. It is sweet. Yes, it is sweet, but you still get the burn. Obviously, coming in, you still get that burn on the back end, but it's a good burn. I think it's a good flavor burn. But yeah. I mean, just like eating a nice bowl of Southern grits with butter in it. It's that smooth. All right, yeah, I'm sold. Yeah, that's probably the first one that I've ever had straight corn whiskey that I like. But I think you're right. I think that what the big difference is the white corn. It's a completely different flavor. God, it is sweet. I'm really getting a lot of sweetness on the back
sweet.
end.
The more you sip, the more
you sip it. Yep, you're exactly right, because it just hit me. Wow.
And I can see why you talked about it. You're like, you just have another, then you sip another, and you sip another, because it's not. There's nothing there that screams like, oh, this is 108 proof. Oh, this is going to put you on your butt maybe if you have too many of these as the night goes along. It's just an easy drink and pour. Like, this could be someone's go-to, quote-unquote, everyday bourbon or everyday whiskey, because it is very smooth, very sweet, very, like...
Correct.
I feel like this is also one that, I know we were talking about cocktails before, but I feel like this could produce some pretty funky, fun cocktails.
Yeah, Gold Rush. We've done some riffs on old fashions and Manhattans with this as well.
Wasn't there a honeysuckle?
Honeysuckle.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Use
on
some
the
honeysuckle simple syrup with this if you're inclined to make that, or get your hands on some, and it's it's made for it.
Yeah, but you said this is your last pour, so I couldn't do this in my last pour. I'd be in all kinds of trouble. Like,
Because you keep drinking?
oh yes, yeah, yeah. Well, I have that kind of problem anyway. When I'm partying, I just keep going.
No,
but
it's not when you're partying. It's when you're cooking. When you're in the
that's
kitchen, yeah,
yeah,
that's your.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I gotta have something to keep me company while everybody else is socializing, and I'm, cooking the food. But yeah, but no, it's really good. Congrats.
Thank
You have won me over with a straight corn whiskey. Wow. Yeah,
Bringing back the category.
absolutely.
Well, and like we talked about, you guys are doing a lot of different things. That very traditional, very, like you said, pre-prohibition style. You all produce a wide variety of whiskey. Like I said, we've had a corn whiskey, we've had rye, bottled and bond, straight bourbon. And you also do other products. So, like, what made you kind of go this wide range? Is it 1, 2 to bourbon takes a little while to age, so you got to do a few other things to keep the lights on. But I mean, what made you kind of do a few different things?
Well, you come to our distillery, and we're pretty humble. Again, we started from a Amish dairy farm, so our tasting room is the old house that the Amish family lived in, and not very large, but we have about 20 to 30 different products when you walk in the door. If you want to, usually people don't try every single one. I'm not sure I would recommend it without a meal, but a lot of different products. The mindset with the different whiskeys is really to give us some capability to kind of do different things with those whiskeys. We have our ones that we make a lot more of versus others. Obviously, we're very heavy on bourbon, as most Kentucky distilleries are. But it's fun to have these other ones, particularly if you're learning about the product and the process. The unaged stuff that we have is all natural, and it's been a great part of our array of products. But day in and day out, what we're really making and focusing on production wise is whiskey. Having the different mash bills, the different styles of whiskeys, it's a good and bad thing at the same time. I mean, we've had different ones that we've had without for years. We just bottled some dark fired whiskey, which is our dark fired mash bill that we smoke the corn and age it in a used barrel. So it's kind of like a corn whiskey, but with the dark fired mash. And we probably haven't had that on the shelf for 4 or 5 years. And then same thing, we have a wheat whiskey. Some of the stuff has a more steady pipeline, and other items, it's a little bit more sporadic. It's tough to make the right amount of what you want. And so one way you deal with that is you give yourself options as you grow.
Nice. Is there anything that you can tell us that, and maybe you could tell us off camera, but is there anything that you can allude to, anything that's maybe that the folks and the masses can be looking forward to? Maybe you guys got something new that you guys are working on, something, new releases, or
maybe something coming back.
Yeah, or something coming
Maybe
back.
something coming back, yeah.
Yeah.
We always have something coming back. We're about to put out a fun little micro batch of corn that's some older barrels. So a little darker, a little heavier on that sweetness and that flavor. Really fun. And next month in January, we'll put out a barrel pick that I'm doing, or that I did, because technically it's already picked. But we've always got a lot of things kind of in the pipeline. A lot of it's one-off, so we don't want to say, hey, we're putting this out, because it's not going to be something that we have every day or, on a consistent basis.
Right.
We are in the process of doing a bottle club where people, depending on your state and locale, you'll be able to order and get a shipment of some of these specific things that we put together over the course of the year. And for us, it's more about how we kind of evolve our business. For people that aren't familiar with our area, it's a fast-growing area. It's we're staring right over the state line at Clarksville, Tennessee, right down the road from Nashville, and I've been here long enough to see how this growth is happening and the type of people that are coming into the area now, and we're turning into more of a full-fledged big city in a lot of ways. And found out several months ago, but it went public last month, that there's going to be a Buc-ee's across the field from us on our interstate exit. So we know we're going to get a little bit more traffic in a year or so, and so we've got some plans to enhance the experience here when you come out and give you more things to do. We're always trying to come up with fun, experience-driven things for people that are interested in the industry. So can't promise you it's going to be like a competition if you sign up for an experience, but it's going to be something fun if you have a group of people.
You should get Buc-ee's to do a barrel pick. You start printing your own money if you do that, because it doesn't matter. You put Buc-ee's on anything, people are going to flock to it. It's going to sell. You get them to a barrel pick, and that's awesome though. That's going to create a ton more traffic there.
Yeah.
Hopefully, especially get folks will bring more traffic, obviously, to you guys and to the tasting room, the distillery, and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I mean, all of that helps us with other growth, whether it be distribution. We're in a few states. Y'all are based out of Kentucky, so obviously we're there. But then online sales is kind of an evolving animal, and it's a brave new world, and it's going to continue to evolve for the next few years. So that's definitely something that is on the list for us as far as priorities.
That's awesome.
I was going to say, I mean, you checked off like half of our questions there, but one of them though, you talked about it. People, especially if you're heading to Nashville, a lot of people from Kentucky, they like to go down to Music City, visit. If they're coming back up, going down, or who knows, maybe they're just looking for a fun, different kind of, staycation type deal. What can they expect when they hit up the distillery and visit the tap room or, the tasting room and get to experience things?
Well, we are open 7 days a week and 361 days a year, unless we have a few snow days. And we're open for tastings and tours, and we've got some other enhanced experiences people can sign on for. But long term, we're gonna work on getting some food here and some other artisan shops and things like that, because we've got 26 acres. But I will gladly plug for those that are interested in this type of endeavor. We have our crawfish boil on April the 26th. That is about as legit as you can get in Kentucky, because it's my people from Louisiana bringing up the crawfish, and we'll do about 1,500 pounds or so of that for that particular event. It is definitely a fun event. We will teach you how to eat crawfish if you don't know how to. For the people that it's too much work. No, you just got to get a rhythm, and you can tear into them. But that's kind of like my fun way of imparting the Louisiana influence here in Kentucky. And a lot of people, we got a lot of people in our area that are from Louisiana or from the Gulf Coast because of the Fort Campbell, and because a lot of people that came up to Nashville area and stuff Katrina refugees, which I can't call myself one, but I'm almost one because I got here 2 weeks before Katrina hit from
Good
from
timing.
my family.
Good timing.
Yeah. Well,
Well-
and you know, for those that are listening very closely, I can tell you have your plus one, making sure you don't miss anything. Am I correct there, Paul?
Yeah, yeah. The MD is right over here.
Well, John, we should definitely go up. Would do that crawfish boil because that's around my birthday, and maybe we could do something with the show to promote it or advertise it.
My only concern for me, because you know I've got a small child that now loves to dance, is everything's in the spring. I'm terrified of what
She
I'm
can
not gonna
dance
be
at the crawfish boil. Listen, she can dance there. They'll have music, I'm sure, or we can bring her on. It doesn't matter. She can dance there.
Well, it's a 21 and up event.
Oh well, never mind then.
Yeah.
So
But either way, it's a daytime event, so y'all could come out and get home
Yeah.
that evening if you wanted to. So
no, I'd stay out there.
I like it.
You're not far. You're not far from Paducah. Like you literally just roll out there, go up to Paducah, spend the weekend or something. Like
yeah,
Like,
Paducah's a great town. I love Paducah.
yeah.
That's one of
That's
the best
cool.
kept secrets in Kentucky for those that haven't been there or haven't been there in a while.
You're exactly right.
You can go there, and I mean, there's wonderful. Here I am plugging Paducah. There's wonderful.
I was like, wait, aren't you? You're in a different P town. Like, come on.
But
part of it.
restaurants good. You know, they've got great liquor stores with folks that know what they're doing with bourbon. Been doing it a while.
Yeah.
Good wonderful representation, Western Kentucky.
Yep, 100%. So
See, this is what happens when you have a few too many pours. He's just now plugging everywhere else. And,
That's right.
That's
hey,
that's why this is
I'm
his
for
last one.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Well,
I'm here for
you
it.
know, you talk about, like, you know, as we wrap up here, you know, you've kind of got like a bottle club coming up. I believe you got like the Stavesman program, even now. Like, so I mean, clearly you're trying to find ways to let people understand what a craft distillery is. And can you kind of just talk about that mindset of, you know, bringing more people in and letting them see these unique things that y'all do?
Yeah, I mean, our ultimate marketing is establishing a relationship with people, and you do that when you spend time with them, when they spend time with us, and that is especially when we're as unique as we are, and people put that together and understand, you know, that there's not really anyone else doing white corn pot distilled bourbon and doing all the things that we do to build the flavor the way that we do. And we're not doing it just to build a brand. We're not just doing it to resurrect someone from history, or we're trying to create our own history. But Stavesman program, that we're looking to do in conjunction with the Bottle Club. And I will give one plug about that program if you have an interest to join. And there's more info on our website. We're about to be done with what we call our lifetime memberships, meaning at the end of this year, if you sign up by the end of this year, you'll be a lifetime member. If you sign up after the new year, then we'll have a little fee on that, unless you're part of the Bottle Club, and you know that'll all be involved in that. So you won't have the fee with the Bottle Club, but they're not the exact same program, but the Bottle Club will be part of it, and the Stavesman members also get some discounted pricings, whether it be for the crawfish boil or some of the other events that we have, early access to some of the releases that we do. But really, you know, in the grand scheme of club pricing, ours is very reasonable. We're the small business version of that.
I love it, and you're making unique stuff, good stuff, and I love what you're doing, and I appreciate the time. You know, like I said, this all started. You talked about the fire, the one you just brought back. We
Dark
had
fired
that at
whiskey,
Bourbon on
yeah.
the dark fired whiskey. We had that at Bourbon on the Banks. I think that's what sparked this whole thing. And Paul, thank you for sharing some pours and
Absolutely.
bottles with us, and thanks for kind of doing something unique. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Thank y'all for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing, because it's really good, and it's unique. It's different. That's what I like about it.
Well, if I can win you over with our corn whiskey,
You sure did.
That
You
is
sure
a victory
did.
for me. So
I'll see you in April at the crawfish. I'll be there.